Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well. On this evening's big match preview, we'll be looking ahead to Saturday's South East London derby with Millwall at the Valley. Joining me top right to look ahead to this game, first up, is Mr. Tom Willing. How you doing, Tom?
I'm all right, yeah. Fed up of that international break, so it's good to be back. Even though it's a guaranteed defeat. But
yeah, well, talking of guaranteed defeats, I mean, Canada are a very good footballing nation, aren't they?
Hey, Bellamy picked them for a reason. I think they're very similar in terms of rankings, world rankings to Wales, but change side, so don't worry about it. They beat Kazakhstan in the group. That's what matters.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up. Also, bottom of the screen there is Mark Newbury. How do you, Mark?
I'm good. And can I say this is not coordinated? It looks like it is, but it is. I was having this feeling that I was wearing lucky yellow at the end of last season, so I thought to myself, I'm going to stick it on tonight.
Yeah, well, Isaac's asking if I didn't get the memo with both Tom and Mark in the yellow away shirt. Don't forget the one I bought last year didn't have a badge on it, Castor Special, so I don't really wear it anymore. So on tonight's show, then we'll look ahead to the game with the Lions at the Den, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday as the Addicts look to try and end 29 years of hurt against our South East London neighbours. I've literally never seen us beat Milwall, and I've never seen Millwall lose a game of football ever. Even in covering them for other games against different clubs, they've never lost a single game. So hopefully that'll change on Saturday. So we'll look ahead to that game. We're going to hear, of course, from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. We're going to hear from a Millwall fan later on in the show as well. Hopefully Phil should be joining us in the second half of the show. We want to hear from you guys as well. Good evening to everyone who's joined us in the chat. Mike Salmon, first one, he was probably playing last time we beat him, says, good evening, everyone. Was 29 years with our biggest crowd. Surely this Saturday, surely Millwall's luck will run out. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, everyone in the chat. There's loads of you in there. How you feeling ahead of Saturday's game? Will this be the time that our luck finally turns against Millwall? You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or the best thing to do is to add a live comment in the YouTube chat section there to let us know how you're feeling ahead of this game. Paul Fox says he was there for Kim Grant in the snow, which is good. Callum's feeling very nervous ahead of Saturday. Tom, how are you feeling ahead of this game? It's you can look at it sort of two ways, really. I mean, I can't. Yeah, even if we won our last 5 games, it's Millwall Saturday. It's a massive game, but you know, we're off the back of a little losing run now, back in the champ. You know, a couple of defeats, a very unlucky one against Leicester. Probably a deserved one against QPR, although we had our moments. But you know, it's a big game in many senses of the word on Saturday.
Yeah, at the moment, I feel excited, and I think primarily that's because, well, one, I know it's going to be just a good atmosphere and all of that stuff, but two, because it's come straight after the international break, and this international break comes so early, so you're just settling into the season and you're excited football's back, and suddenly it's taken away from you again. So I'm glad that football's back and that routine's back, and so from that aspect, I just can't wait for Saturday. On Saturday morning, I'll be nervous and I can't wait for the game to be over. And I think ultimately I've assumed we're going to lose, like you, never seen us beat them. But I think I was talking to a colleague at work who's a Charlton fan, and we were having this debate. And I think the international break probably came at a good time for us because we'd lost those 2 in a row. I think if we'd have beaten QPR and you then go into the international break and you think, okay, we've won 2 of our first 4. We drew with Bristol when we probably should have won. And okay, the Leicester one we lost, but that was unlucky. I think possibly then you don't want that break. But maybe that's come at a good time just for us to settle down, reflect on where we are and go again. And that this is a different game because it's Millwall. I understand that. And as I say, on Saturday, I'll be more nervous than I would be normally. But on paper, we've got a very good chance. You know, we've got a good squad. We've been playing well. Yeah, it's just whether the Millwall curse hits again. So at the moment, excited, can't wait for it. Saturday, I won't be saying the same thing. That's for sure.
Isaac's asking if Ethan's nan has ever seen us beat Millwall. Well, if she's 104, she would have seen us beat them 12 times. That's how often we beat Millwall, once every decade or so. They've beaten us 37 times in that time. It's 29 years since we last beat them. Mark, we did the double over them that season. Obviously, Kim Grant in the snow, Bow and Lee Byrne in the home game. It's a long time, isn't it? And at some point, statistically, that has to change.
Oh yeah, it's true, and I'm probably one of the minorities in our team who have seen us beat Millwall. Terry, yes, Paul, Susie. I think that would be it. The rest of you are way too young for it. But the thing about statistics, you can make them say what you want. In that time, we've not, 29 years ago, they said, well, we've not played them. We played them 12 times in 6 seasons in the last 26 years because
I'd be disappointed if we hadn't beaten Man United in the last 12 times we've played them, let alone Millwall. I mean, it's 12 games.
It's statistics are there to both beat you with and to sort of like shove up your nose, because even if we beat them on Saturday, they're still going to say, well, we've beaten you all this many times. It is trepidation, excitement. I've got to think, when the fixtures came out in the summer, 98% of Charlton fans probably went to look first, when did we get Millwall? And I think, and it's for games like this, for that reason, because you want it. You want the atmosphere. We want to have the hope, with a mixture of dread. So it's a combination of everything with these kind of games. And I don't know whether it is good to have the break because it gives them time to get some working on some things. But obviously, with having players away, that's probably going to change the team lineup on Saturday. We'll probably talk about that later. So, and also probably I was listening to the pod earlier, your other one, and was saying about the Millwall guy was saying, it probably was a good break for them as well. So it's a double-edged sword. If we'd won against QPR, you want to keep the momentum going, but it's very intense, that first month of football. So maybe a week's break or 2 weeks break, can help us reset.
Looking like it's going to be the highest attendance against Millwall in over 50 years. I think they're saying over 23,000 tickets sold now. I think I saw early on today, Tom. And what does this game mean to you then? So I just done the Millwall pod and we were sort of discussing like who the biggest rivalries, and obviously like for them they got West Ham. That is just slightly above us and Palace really. But for us, it's either Palace or Millwall is the biggest one. And I feel like for me it's sort of changed over the years. Obviously, when I was younger, living in Bromley, more of a Palace area, and we were playing Palace quite often, like they were the big ones who I wanted to beat. But when it comes to the last sort of 10, 15 years, obviously we ain't played them for 5 years, but since 2009, we must have played them a lot more than we played Palace. Especially since I've moved around here to Sid Cup, it's all Charlton and Millwall around here. You don't see Palace shirts here. It's like someone's gone around with a big Hoover and something just cleaned up the area a little bit. But the Millwall game, it's 4 miles apart. It's a huge derby. I mean, I've got family members who support Millwall. You have friends who support Millwall. I mean, this is just it means a lot to me on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm at the slightly different position in that I didn't grow up around here, so I haven't had that through school and stuff. But what I did have at school, where obviously I think I was the only Charlton fan as far as I'm aware, but there were supporters of a lot of clubs. People used to take the piss out of me, not for supporting Charlton, but for the fact Charlton didn't have any big rivals. Like, you think you like Millwall, you think you're against Palace, and they don't really care about you. I was like, I'm not really that bothered about that. And then when I moved down here and lived here and experienced it, I was like, you have no idea what it's actually like when you live those games. And when they happen, they do mean more. They absolutely mean more, and you can tell it. And in the area I am, similar to you, it's more Charlton and Millwall. I think my hatred of Palace is probably more, and I think having sort of grown up and learnt about the history of the club and having to share the ground and the way they treated us, and I just don't like Palace. I've never liked Palace. I don't think ever. Millwall, I don't know what it is. I don't hate them in the same way, but I just cannot get over the fact we've not beaten them in so long. Like, that drives me mad. And I've got a mate who's a Blackburn fan that lives down here. So often Blackburn Millwall is one I'll go to with him. And even when I've been with him, I think we've been 4 or 5 times, and I've only seen Blackburn beat Millwall once. They've scored 2 late goals against them as well. It's just a horrible club generally. Whereas Palace, it's the rivalry. Millwall, it's just a horrible club, and I just don't like it. So, yeah, I'm not saying nice things about either of them, and I never will. But it's just getting over that hurdle. But Mark's right. This is exactly the sort of thing we want. We don't want to be sitting in League One playing a Fleetwood Town or someone like that. We want to be playing big teams. We want to be playing in sold-out stadiums, and we want these derbies back. And as he says, first thing I looked at when the fixtures come out was right. When are those 2 games? So yeah, it's massive. It's massive. But this is what you live for. It's the same as the playoffs. Playoffs terrified me the whole way through until that last minute when the whistle went at Wembley. But that's what you want as a football fan. You want to be on that edge because when it goes the right way, like that last minute goal against Watford with Harvey Nibbs, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. And you have to accept that sometimes it won't be. What I can't accept is the fact that Millwall, it's never it just always goes against us. Whatever score, that 4-2 at home when we drew 4, all the games away where we scored last minute, took a Diane when he was 1-on-1 at the end, all these things, they just go round and round and round your head. And it's just, we've got to do it at some point. We've just got to do it.
I made the mistake of watching the highlights of the last time we played at the Den yesterday. And I used to like Naby Sarr until I remember what happened that day, and he didn't jump for the Matt Smith header at the end. And I was fuming watching that back yesterday. But there's so many moments, like the time the keeper dropped the ball, and I think it was Bauer turned it in, and there was nothing wrong with it, and the ref disallowed it. They said they took a Diane one when he was going through on goal and didn't take it. Solly getting sent off for the ball hitting him in the face. Like all these stupid things. You know, the first time I saw us play against Millwall was that 4-4 when they were down to 10 men for an hour. We come back from 2-0 down, got 4-3 up, and last minute goals, and it's just statistically impossible. The weird thing is when that game happened, we'd actually made it 3 games in a row unbeaten against Millwall, and that was the best it was ever going to be. It turns out, Mark. I mean, you've seen us win this game, Mark. You've seen us beat Millwall at times. I mean, how much does the rivalry mean to you?
Well, pretty much the same as everyone. I mean, being in the area, being South London, and where I work, the postmaster is next door to the kitchen where I am, and he's a Millwall fan, and we've been sort of like chatting, and this week, and I agree with Tom. I despise Palace way more. Millwall, I think they're a team who have, from a reputation of behaviour of their fans, have lived off that because they haven't really lived off any success. So they can call us train spotters. I'd rather be a train spotter any day of the week compared to some of the things which they're referred to. It's a strange one with this kind of like rivalry. I really don't know how I feel about it because it's almost like we see our club how we see it, and we look at our history, we look at the stadium, we look about the bigger numbers, and the people who go down there, all feel totally different. What I've felt over the years is that we've been out battled, we've been out fought, we've been physically bullied, and that's what Steve Morrison did it when Texera got sent off. I mean, you said about Tukadia, and that's the one which has been going through my head all day. But they bullied us, and they bullied us when they had Sheringham. They bullied us when they had Herlock and Keith Stevens in there. And Herlock was a horrible, horrible player. And we were bullied, and they found that worked against us because we then became nervous when we played them. And it was strange because when Bowyer was manager, you expected him to be able to say, right, I've beaten this lot, I've scored against this lot, let's take it to them. And we didn't. And I think the difference this time is in the dugout. I think with Nathan Jones, the intensity he gets them to play at. Now, apparently Millwall will play it with a high intensity as well and like to sit back. So that's a bit of a thing with both of us sitting back. But there's going to be battles all over that pitch, and that's what he's going to be telling them. You win your battle against your guy. Because we've got players there who can score from set pieces. I think Lloyd Jones is due a goal. But what we've got to do, we've got to stand up to them and not be bullied. And that's what I think, if I could put my finger on why we've lost so many, is that we were just bullied. And
That's the thing I was going to ask then, Tom. So our record against them is pathetic. There's no two ways about it. And I think Mark sort of hit the nail on the head there. We're two clubs geographically not that far apart. Like I say, you day to day, you walk around and you'll see Millwall fans knocking about, looking like relatively normal people, but we're all the same. But there's two very different auras and sort of the way the clubs are seen and the way the clubs put fear into each other is Millwall do that more than us. That's just a fact. Okay, and I do feel like we've bottled it too many times. So what are we going to do this time to make it different?
Yeah, and I was looking at the stats, and maybe we'll talk to the Millwall fan when they come on about it. But they're and it's early days. Obviously, we've played 4 league games, but they're like in the top 3 or 4 for tackles. They're in the top 3 or 4 for fouls. They're in the top 3 or 4 for long balls. So you know the sort of game you're going to get. It doesn't, unless the Millwall fan tells us any different. They don't seem any different. They're going to lump it long. They're going to be aggressive, and you've got to match that. But as you said earlier about the Naby Sarr, for example, like just ducking out of challenges, for some reason we just seem to get overawed by them. It has to be psychological because we've had so many different groups of players. 30 odd years? I don't know how many games it's been in that time, but there's been different groups of players. There's been different managers. They all say the same thing. They all say, we're in the right place and our head's in the right place and it's just another game and blah, blah, blah. But we can't do it. We've had, decent leaders, people like Jacko or Jason Pearce, proper battler, warrior. He's played in games against Millwall. We've had players like that. We've had players like Solly, who's come through the youth academy, knows what it means. Just can't seem to get over the line. So it's definitely a psychological thing. I don't know how you fix that, and that's obviously Nathan Jones's job. But if you can, I saw someone put in the chat about what Nathan Jones's post-match will be like if we beat him. Just imagine him on the touchline if we get over the line. Like, you imagine he's going to love it, or maybe he's going to be proper subdued. But either way, it's just going to be great. But there is some psychological barrier we can't get over. And that's the thing that, for the Millwall fans who say, it's not a proper rivalry, and others that do, whatever, on Saturday it will be a rivalry. Both clubs will know that. And anyone who says different is kidding themselves. But the thing that winds us up the most about them is the fact that they can just sing that we never beat Millwall, because it's true. Like, it's genuinely true. They're not winding us up on some sort of false thing. It's genuinely happening. So, we've got to find a way to get over that psychological thing. And I don't think it necessarily always transcribes to the fans, because I've been in that away end 2 or 3 times when we've lost it. And the fans haven't been sort of nervous at the end of the games. Not that I've noticed, and no more than normal. And yet it still happens. So it's got to be a player thing. It's got to be something in their mentality that Jones has got to tap into. And obviously he's not had that experience yet. I doubt none of the players in this side will have had it against them yet with us. You just don't want someone like a Greg Doherty, who we know can get fired up, to go too far too early. And so it's also about maintaining that as well. But yeah, it's a fine line. But it just has to be that psychological barrier you've got to get over. And you've got to walk that line. You've got to be aggressive like they are, but you've got to be careful, because we've seen too many of our players get sent off over the years as well.
Yeah, right. James says Millwall just see Charlton as a pushover. This has been going on since the 70s. It never helps that the best Charlton players disappear in these games. Isaac says this is a fresh, new set of players, so hopefully less fear, but they'll also be aware of the expectation in the chat around it. Dean says Edwards, Jones, Ramsey, Dock and Coventry, they won't be getting bullied in this game. Well, let's have a listen to what the Alex boss Nathan Jones has to say ahead of the fixture against Millwall. Got the all-important team news in here as well.
There's a squad, you're saying 3 away, I think, with the Jamaican squad, as they come back all in good health. And how has the progression been for the ones who you've already mentioned the names, been looking to get back into the squad? Yeah, good. Look, Rhys Burger's had minutes, so has James Breeze, had more work into his legs than Kelman, people like that, Oluwafe, that have needed that time have done that, so they're all up to speed with greater oomph, if you like. And then the ones who've gone away, had 2 great wins. The Jamaican team had 2 fantastic wins, and we're proud of them. Tyrese played a game and a half. Karoy got on, so did Kahim. Even though Kahim's not with us at this point in time. So look, the squad's in a good place. We'll regroup tomorrow, and then, as we said, go into a huge game. Yeah, when promotion was achieved and we knew that we would be in the Championship, many, if not all, Charlton fans would have had more than one eye on our opponents this Saturday, despite our fairly miserable record against them. For you and the team, in the build-up to a game like this against our nearest rivals, do you allow yourself to consider how important this game is to the fans, or is it a case of just trying to blank that out? And can you allow yourself to do that?
Oh, we know the importance of games. I mean, like every game's important, and then the ones against your local rivals add a little bit of zest to the game, and we're fully aware of that. But you know, we want to win the game first and foremost to Charlton Athletic and everything involved with that. We want to win it for ourselves, and we also want to win it for the fans. But you know. We understand the importance of a derby, and we know that. And the reason we understand it is because the type of game it will be, you know. And if we don't understand that, then we can't prepare ourselves in the best mental and physical way to be able to compete in a derby. So trust me, we know the importance, and we allow ourselves the importance of that, because if we don't, then it'll affect us on the day.
Well, the last 5 games at the Valley, even back to Northampton last season, have been crowds in excess of 20,000. And it looks like Saturday will be the highest attendance of a local derby for 50 odd years. So the fans are certainly going to come in numbers and get behind the boys, and that'll make it a special atmosphere on Saturday.
Yeah, it will. And look, we asked at the beginning of this journey to get on board, to do everything, and the fans have done that. The fans have been outstanding. It's a totally different club, you know, with the greatest respect. It's a totally different club to what I walked into, and that's not just on the pitch, that's around the pitch, that's in, you know, the decision makers, that's in the squad we have, in how we go about our business. We are a totally different football club, and everyone's had to buy in for that. And I'm immensely proud to manage this football club, and then to see another big crowd at the Valley, you know, taking it back to top Championship Premier League days, and that's what we want. That's the vision. But as you said, this is not the destination. This is all part of our journey, and the fans have been outstanding from the time we've asked them to get on board, you know, to now. That's been a journey that we've done together.
That's Nathan Jones looking ahead to Saturday South East London derby with Millwall. Mark, we should talk team selection. Robert saying, I expect Nathan will start with the same lineup as QPR. He said himself he'd bench Tyrese Campbell and play Tanto with Lee Byrne. Mr. Curly Whirly says if anyone's going to get us that win against Millwall, it will be Nathan Jones. Use a bit of the dark arts and snag an early goal and hold out from there. Sam mentioning about Bell not playing for Jamaica. I mean, there are team news questions, aren't there? You know, like I say, the lads who've been off with Jamaica. So obviously Anderson and has come off the bench for a few minutes. Kahim, I think, played a fair bit. Obviously, he's not with us at the moment, but TC's played a lot of football, and he's played it on the other side of the world, and he's come back and we'll have jet lag. I mean, can you see changes there? Obviously, Bell a big question because he didn't actually feature.
Yeah, I've seen that. If Bell doesn't, I imagine he'll put Burke in over Gillespie. I'd agree. I'd go with Tanto up front with Miles, only because his speed and the way he plays and his physicality as well is better than TC's. And I think myself, if I saw someone earlier say, if you've got Tanto for 60 minutes running at defence, stretching them, and then you can then bring TC on against a tiring defence, that would work. I can't see any other changes really apart from that. I mean, you don't need to. I mean, I just imagine Bree will be on the bench, possibly. You know, it depends what his fitness is like. So I don't think you're going to make change for change's sake. I just think when it comes down to it, having a stronger bench, as we've talked about, is better. And I'd try and keep Apter on for as long as possible. I really would, because I just think he's that kind of player. And I talked about this on our first show, that when he gets the ball, he's the one where you move a bit forward on your seat just to see, because I love players like that. So get Tanto in, and then if you've got TC and you've got Charlie Kelman on there as well, I think that's a strong bench, a strong backup.
Yeah, Mark saying as his ex-Millwall, this game is set for Tanto. And like I say, there's a couple of people calling for Tanto. Paul saying, can't imagine TC will start. Impact sub last 20 would be great, because I mean they're asking a lot of him to put in those performances like he has for Jamaica, and then to come back with the jet lag. I know like players do it all the time, but maybe that'll be a bit too much. Who knows, Tom? What would you like to see? Is there anything in the way we have played that needs to change? You know, bear in mind, in every game we've been in, 3 out of 4 we should have won. Last time out against QPR, I think we had our spells, but I think you could say it's probably a fair defeat because of the way things happened. But is there anything that has to change that you'd be tempted to for Saturday? Because it's Millwall, do we have to do anything different?
I don't think I'd necessarily be doing anything different because it's Millwall, other than, as I say, maybe trying to up the aggression. But I think we're quite a physical side anyway, or can be. And like our defensive record does speak for itself. I think the thing we need to start doing more is just trying to find a way to get our strikers more in the game. And I'm not just saying we need to score more goals, because obviously we do. And I know Millwall haven't scored a lot of goals either. But they just don't seem to be in the game a lot. So TC been spoken about a lot for good and for bad over the past 4 or 5 weeks. I think he has moments where he looks brilliant. He has moments where he goes missing. I think Kelman, it might just be because it's match fitness. I don't know. But he hasn't looked like he's done an awful lot in games. And then Miles has, again, shown glimpses, but it's not like we're creating a lot of clear-cut chances. And I know for the Leicester game, for example, we created enough to win that game. But it's not like the strikers are on the ball a lot. I haven't looked at the stats around touches, so I might be completely wrong, but it just doesn't feel like that when you're watching games. I agree totally with Mark on Apter, I think, and TC to an extent on the other side in getting them the ball. But then when those final balls do come in, the strikers just aren't really doing enough or getting enough. So that's the only thing long term is to try and get them more on the ball. I think the midfield, again, QPR aside, but the midfield certainly in the Bristol game and then in the Leicester game was vastly improved. I thought Doherty has started to improve a lot. I like what Carey's doing, although I just see all hell let loose say about Nibs, and obviously we need to know if he's fit. But Nathan Jones isn't one to change an awful lot, is he? He gets a starting 11, he trusts his players and he backs them. I think the Tanto for TC one makes sense, particularly because TC's been away. But apart from that, I just can't see him doing an awful lot. And I don't necessarily think we need to. I don't think it's panic stations or anything like that. Just think we just need to get a bit more fluid and get the ball into that final third a lot more. Because as Mark says, when it is in the final third, it tends to be with Rob Apter or possibly someone over on the other side. So, finding a way to do that would help. And then I think the goals will come, because I do think we've got a good side and a good squad there.
Yeah, so we heard Nathan Jones there, Mark, speaking about they would understand what this game means. I think with Nathan, like more than a lot of managers, I think he lets slip, not in a bad way, but just a little bit that he's very much a football fan as well. Like he celebrates like he did when Luton beat Swansea because he's a Cardiff boy and he enjoyed that. He said, he mentions little things about away days here and there that make it sound like he's talking like a fan. Like, the fans are going to enjoy this city, they're going to enjoy that. Like, I feel like he understands that aspect of it. No one will need to tell Nathan Jones about the derby and that sort of stuff. I mean, the players, you'd imagine he'd find it relatively easy to get them up for this.
Well, you'd hope so, and obviously, the players will see what's going on across the social medias. Letting them know how important this fixture actually is. And it's sort of say, it's you only get 3 points for winning this, but it's more to it than that. It's way more to it. There was some guy saying that it's his brother's Christmas dinner. He's a Millwall fan, and it's just like gives him the bragging rights, and that's what it does. You don't want it to be the be all and end all of everything, with a touch of realism, and go, you know what? It's if we draw. We draw, we score, but it's how we played. Like I say, we didn't get what we deserve from Leicester. I agree with you. We got what we deserve with QPR. So it's going back to the intensity of Leicester with the finish at the end of it, and that's what you've got to get to. And if the players are on, and with Carey as well, Carey comes off, and I like the way he carries the ball and he goes looking for the ball, and I like that in a player. But it's also remembering that they are still gelling as a team, because we are only 5 games in, as it were, not really counting the cup games because there's wholesale changes. And think back to last season, it took us a while before we actually clicked. And once we clicked, we were fantastic, phenomenal, terrific. The odd blip, but so that's what you're hoping, that it tweaks it. And if Tanto coming in and argument's sake, we win 2-0, Tanto scores 1, Lloyd gets 1. That could be the thing which makes that team click. And then Tyrese is going to say, right, I'm going to come off a bench and be that finisher. That's what they said. They said, we don't have subs, we've got finishers. Then we've got to look at it, and that's the thing which could make us click. So it's very early to see that we're clicking. Look at them, Borough, Stoke. They've clicked straight away, but that they're not going to keep that up all season. So, I think this is the thing the players will understand, and the noise Saturday. Like I say, Doc said he's not heard it louder really than the playoff against Wickham, but I think he's going to hear it a lot louder on Saturday.
Excellent stuff. Right, we're going to have a quick break. When we come back, don't be afraid. We are going to speak to a Millwall fan. We'll see you in 30 seconds.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview, and it's a huge match this weekend. The Addicts facing their South East London neighbours, Millwall, coming up at the Valley on Saturday. Delighted to say that we are now joined by a Millwall fan. Phil Clark joins us on the show. Phil, thanks for your time this evening. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Louis. Yeah, very well. Yeah. Delighted to be with you ahead of what is a huge fixture for both sides. First time for a handful of seasons that we've encountered you.
Yeah, certainly. And one I guess you've been relishing, really. You've probably missed encountering us over the last 5 years because, I mean, your record in this fixture is obviously very, very good. Can you put your finger on why it is so good when you play against us?
Oh, that's a tough question, isn't it? No, I can't put my finger on it, basically. It's probably one for Charlton to answer, really, because they're the ones who haven't done so well. I guess we've probably just been more in the ascendancy over that period of the last 15 years, and just I think probably just a little bit more up for it, which I think is going to be the subject of Saturday. Which team's going to be up for it the most? Really, that's probably going to determine the result, I think.
A bit of a mixed start for you, Phil. A bit like us. We were looking at some of the stats earlier, and I know you can only read so much into that, but I think you were quite high on long balls, quite high on tackles, quite high on fouls. Is this Alex Neil side as physical as that sets out? And have you been physical this season? And is that the sort of playing style we can expect from you on Saturday?
Good question, Tom. I wouldn't have said we are that physical at the moment. I mean, I haven't missed a game for 2 or 3 years, so I've kind of been home and away and done all the friendlies in Spain. So when Louis mentioned about looking forward to the fixture on a personal level, most Millwall fans would like to have a game that's actually not 200 miles away on a Saturday. So, I'm not sure we are really. I mean, the kind of tough players I would have considered, like Saville and Honeyman, have left. I'm not sure we've got the same sort of reinforcements in yet to provide that sort of steel in midfield. Have we gone a bit long? Yeah, probably. When you look at the forwards that we play, Coburn, Ivanovic, they're both kind of, 6'3", 6'4", big units, quite mobile. So it's probably obvious to try and hit them early and kind of win the second balls. I don't really see us as being that physical, to be honest, but maybe I'm just a bit biased to that.
Hey, Phil. There's 2 experienced managers in the dugout with Nathan and Alex. Working with Millwall fans, they're not 100% convinced about Alex Neil. They say he doesn't really convince them with a style of football. And obviously, last season you were a tad short, but I think it was a bit of a strange season in the Championship last year. How do you feel that do you think he's getting Millwall, or do you think it's a case of he'll do until someone comes along who's going to take you that next step?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know who you work with as Millwall fans or where you work, but I think most Millwall fans are pretty behind Alex Neil. I think when you look at our kind of arc over the last 6-7 years, starting with Neil Harris, then into Gary Rowett, then back to Neil for a short period of time, I think Alex Neil's a good progression on that. I think he's got a better style of football than the other two. I think he's got more experience, and the one thing he has got is promotions from the Championship on his CV. So he's got that little bit of edge and experience. It's interesting because I was thinking about Nathan Jones and Alex Neil earlier. When I listen to Nathan Jones in press conferences and read about him, he talks everything up. I think Alex Neil tends to talk everything down or keep everything very level. He doesn't like anything getting overheated. Doesn't like talking about injuries. He keeps a lid on absolutely everything. Whereas you kind of get the feeling with Nathan Jones, he's almost the complete opposite, and everything is kind of out there. I think most fans are behind Alex Neil. I think he's doing a good job. It's been tough because since the change in, sadly with John Burrells passing away and his son taking over, we've had a very strong change in direction when it comes to transfers and kind of philosophy as to how the club's going to be run. So it has meant there's a really large turnover of players. I think since Steve Gallen came in as director of football at the beginning of last summer, I think it's something like 27 new players have joined the club. I mean, that's massive. That's hard for any manager to kind of get any rhythm and settle with, I think.
Yeah, I mean he's a decent manager, Alex Neil, as well. So I think I feel it feels like he's done a pretty good job at your place. So I mean, obviously you mentioned the what happened with the ownership a couple of years ago, which was obviously really difficult to take. But I mean, John had done a very good job at Millwall. I think it's fair to say that the club itself over the last few years are punching above their weight, considering the crowd sizes and that sort of thing. But you're an established Championship club. What do Millwall fans sort of expect when they go into a season now in the Championship? Because you've got in and around the playoffs quite a bit recently. Is that the sort of benchmark now for Millwall, or is that still seen as maybe punching a little bit?
I think most Millwall fans now are fairly realistic. I would think the beginning of a season, most fans are probably thinking, they're hoping for something like 4th, but they're kind of expecting something like 10th. I think they're kind of hoping to be in that bracket. This season, after spending quite a lot of money in the summer, a strong finish under Alex Neil last season kind of gave everybody a lot of optimism. First game of the season, we beat Norwich away, which is the first time we've beaten them for longer than you've beaten us. I think it's it was before I was born. It was 1968 was the last time we won at Carrow Road, which is not a good omen going into Saturday if things follow that path. But I think that that kind of gave everybody a real optimism. We were 2-0 up. We still had Japhet Tanganga. And then suddenly we played at home to Borough and we just didn't look the same side that turned up at Norwich. Japhet's obviously left. We've got, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 injuries already inside the first half a dozen games of the season. And it doesn't quite feel as if it's got that same buzz that it had on the journey home Carrow Road, that's for sure.
And just finally then, Phil, so with the context of what you just said, I mean, how are you seeing Saturday going? Like Charlton fans, we're all desperate for this ridiculous run to end. But I mean, I've been desperate the 12 times I've seen you, and it's never changed. So.
It's never happened. Yeah, I was watching the highlights actually earlier of your QPR game, and I know it was away from home, so a little bit different. But I've spoken to a couple of people who have been to watch QPR and scouted them, and they've kind of said probably a little bit low on quality, but really high on industry. And I sort of that worried me a little bit because I thought with so many players out, Casper out, with Billy Mitchell in midfield out, a lot of the engine room's gone. I thought you might overrun us. But then I watched those QPR highlights and your midfield didn't look fantastic. Defenders were taking too many risks on the ball, a little bit naive where they were getting caught in possession. Just trying to play it out from the back. And I suddenly thought to myself, watching that, it suddenly changed my whole kind of perspective. But maybe it'll be different at the Valley. I think my heart says Millwall probably win 2-1. We've probably just got a little bit too much for you, but maybe my head's kind of saying it might just end up being a 1-1 draw because both of us are probably not quite in the place we want to be quite yet.
Excellent. Well, Phil, really appreciate you hopping on this evening, and I hope you enjoy some aspects of your trip to the Valley on Saturday. All the aspects up until 12:30.
the plan is that my dad's 91 and it's going to be his last ever away game. So the plan is that he's going to be there. So whatever happens, going to have a great day. He used to go to Charlton on the weekends in the 40s and 50s when Millwall were away from home. So it's going to be a great day for us as a family anyway. So let's just hope it's a really enjoyable game and we'll get something out of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, that is special. So, yeah, all the best to you and your family for Saturday. Have a good day, Phil. Cheers for your time,
Thanks
mate.
ever so much, chaps. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you very much. That's Phil Clark, Millwall fan, joining us on Charlton Live this evening. Really good of him to give us his time. What have you sort of made of what he had to say about Millwall then, Tom? Is it filling you with any more confidence? We have heard they've got a few injuries. That's something they could be putting out there under 12 side normally, and it don't really matter. But what are you thinking?
Well, I wanted to end that by telling him to F off, and I wanted us to say we wanted to smash him. And then he said that nice thing about his dad, and now I feel very differently. But look, I'd seen that they had a lot of injuries. But as you say, look, I'm not reading anything into this game. Just the record speaks for itself. But they, as he says, they're clearly not where they want to be either. They almost made playoffs. Did they make the playoffs? No, they missed out, didn't they? But sort of kicked and wanted to kick on this year, and obviously started a bit mixed. But other clubs have started a bit mixed. Leicester have started a bit mixed, and people are expecting big things from them. Same with Ipswich. So I don't think you can read enough into the season. It's probably too early for that at this stage. But he doesn't seem filled with confidence, I wouldn't have said, which is, I was going to say reassuring, but I just don't think it matters, does it? I'm just still convinced that whatever, we could be 8-0 up with 2 minutes left and we'll find a way to throw it away, or the game will get abandoned, or something will happen. So, it's a difficult one. It's interesting, everything we've been speaking about family connections and all of that. And he says his dad used to come down to Charlton. So whatever people say, it shows that rivalry's there. And I mean, deep down, I still hope we win. I can't say I hope they win just because it's his last away game. But it's a nice story. But he hasn't. I don't know how I feel about it still. The more I talk about this game, this happened with one of the playoffs a few years ago. The more I talked about it on this show, I then became nervous. And as I said at the start, I was all excited coming on here, and now I'm nervous about the game.
Building it up too much, aren't we? But I mean, you can't not. I mean, like I've been saying all week, like if you can't get up for this game and feel like this going into this match, then I don't understand why you'd bother coming. Like you have to be there, have to experience these games, and the atmosphere will be great. Millwall sold out the away ends. They'll be leery. They'll be what Millwall are, but we're used to that, and it will make for a really exciting day. And we've got to try and make the most of it. Mark, so you must have some good memories against Millwall. So I have zero. I've possibly -1 good memories against Millwall. I think, which isn't even statistically possible. I've never seen us beat them. I've seen us draw 4-4 against 10 men, having been 4-3 up with minutes left. I've seen us, winning 1-0 at the Den with 10 minutes left and losing 2-1. I've seen us lose games that we should have lost, but we've done it plenty of times. There is light in the tunnel that it has happened before, Mark. So tell us some of your favourite memories of games against this lot, and then maybe we can just think it into existing on Saturday.
Memories leaving the Den and going back to find my car had been keyed. That was a lovely. It's hard. You see the clip of Bowyer scoring and running off and celebrating, and that was just a mental day, just absolutely crazy. But as you said earlier, there's things which have happened in particular games. I mean, the 4-4 was one of those ones where you just looked at it, so we've managed to shoot ourselves in both feet there, and it was crazy. And like I say, the last minute conceding goals. So yeah, I've seen us win, and it does happen. It's not a myth, but you got to think there's almost a new generation of Charlton fans in that ground now who are going to be sort of like up there. Yeah, they're going to hear about the history and the games, but there's a new generation which I think doesn't feel we're going to lose. They're going to look to it and be positive. I don't think. I did feel going into the QPR game, there was a touch of arrogance creeping into a few comments, which I thought was a bit misplaced, and it bit us on the bum nicely. But with this one, I think with a new generation of younger fans who've come in, like you said, you've never seen them win, and it's a time now with players, and we feel more like the club of old. We feel like Nathan says about the journey, and that's what it feels like. It feels like there's now a journey, and there's a lot more of us going on it than there were a few years ago. So, and I think if you can harness that and generate that, say we concede early, first 5 minutes, it's about getting louder. It's then roaring them on and getting players to know, you know what, we're going to drag ourselves out of this. And if it finishes 1-1, it finishes 1-1. But I think that's what you've got to tap into. You've got to tap into almost like a new generation of Charlton fans. A massive crowd, massive noise, great atmosphere. 12:30 kickoff, lovely. So let's see on Saturday.
Let's see what happens. Now, a couple of people are reminding some of the good ones. So James Mooney saw the game in the snow when Kim Grant got a couple. He also says he was there when John Hendry goal for a 1-0 win. I think, was that at Upton Park? Is it on loan from Spurs? I feel like I've heard about that one. Yeah, in fact, Dean said it straight below, actually, is at Upton Park. So yeah, Norm's saying he saw a 3-3 draw at Selhurst as well after we're being 3-0 down. He said he was sat in the Arthur Waite stand. There were Millwall everywhere celebrating goals, but loads of Charlton celebrating ours and don't recall any trouble. I think I looked this up, and the very first game after my birth was a 3-0 home defeat against Millwall as well. It set the tone quite nicely, actually. But yeah, there have been some good memories against Millwall. Dean Chapman also pointed out another bad one when we were 2-0 up at the old Den with like 4 minutes left and drew 2-2. I saw the highlights of that game the other day. Actually, never seen that before. It was quite funny. It felt pretty typical. Right, we will maybe talk a little bit more about the Millwall game right at the end of the show, but we do need to concentrate on the fact, obviously, this is our first show back from the international break, and the closure of the transfer window happened in that time. The Addicts got one more on the final day of the transfer window, with James Breed joining on a short-term loan from Southampton until the January window, potentially with the scope for more, I guess, but we'll see. Nathan Jones was asked by Terry today just to focus a little bit on the end of the transfer window and how he has seen this summer's a business for the Addicts.
It's been a wonderful window. We thank the club and everything, because it's been not far off a perfect window, in terms of all our number one targets. We've excelled. We didn't feel we were going to get James Bree, but he was always our number one target if there was ever a window, and he did that. And I know a lot of people question about, well, it's another player who's played for Luton and stuff. These are players that I've brought to things that done fantastically well at this level, higher level, at every level they played for me. So that's why it is. And we only bring top footballers, top athletes, top things to this football club, and we've done that, in terms of, it's been a wonderful window coupled with what we have. We still got Berry and Godden, who are huge players for us, to come back into the game, to get back into the squad. So look, we're in a good place. We're going to need that because the Championship's relentless, but we've used the 2 weeks to get a bit of minutes into a few people, to rest up one or two, and then there's been one or two away. But look, we've got a huge game on the weekend, which we're looking forward to.
So there we go. Tom, first of all, James Bree. So Nathan speaking there about obviously someone again he's worked with before, but that's not unheard of with Nathan. He likes to bring people in that know the system, that trust the way Nathan works, which is normally quite a specific way. I think you have to buy into Nathan Jones, and clearly he's done that again there with a player who comes in and adds some more cover defensively.
Yeah, and that buying in is exactly what I was about to say. I think because of who Nathan Jones is and how Nathan Jones is, you either buy into it or you don't. And if you do, you know the sort of player you're going to get. And we've seen that with a lot of the players that have come in. So, I don't know a huge amount about him, but based on that, I'm confident that he will be a good addition to the squad. I know we're going to come on to talk about the squad more widely as well, but I think that defence, it's not necessarily that the defence is understocked, but I just feel like having a little bit more depth there does help. And I think it allows us to maybe be more flexible. So I listened to I think the pod you did after QPR. I think it was our pod we were talking about it, about putting TC at right back when Apter comes off, or right wing back, and just doesn't, it's not for me. And I know he's done that a few times, but maybe with an additional body in that back five, maybe there are other ways to do that now instead. So yeah, I think it's a good addition. It would have been nice to get one more. I know there was that Fofana at Chelsea, which it just seems like we maybe messed up. But I think largely we're in pretty good nick now. And I think the key thing for us was getting players fit. Like, we know we've outlaid a lot of cash on Kelman. We know Harvey Nibbs came in with a good reputation, and I think we were pleased, and we maybe see him as one of our marquee signings. But these are players that needed to get up to speed. Same with Godden. We've been talking about the lineup a little bit. This is tailor-made for Godden to be playing in a game like this, a clutch game where you might just need to take that one chance you get, and he might not be fit. So once everybody's up and running, I'm not worried. But it's have those players got up to speed yet is the big thing for me. But a good addition, I think.
Yeah, hopefully. I've just brought up a little squad depth chart I've made just to have a quick look through, actually. But I mean, we could touch upon the fact that we're never going to know the full story. But at one point, it looked like we might be signing a Fofana, a striker from Chelsea, who apparently turned down Celtic to apparently have a chance with us. But we're never going to get the full story on this one because it didn't happen. Chelsea will try and blame us, I'm sure. Who's to blame? How it actually came about, we don't really know, Mark. But was it interesting that we were looking at another striker? Was it the fact that he became available and you thought, well, if he's available, he's not a bad option to have. But either way, we didn't get it over the line. So we are now not stuck with, because that's not the right term, but we now have the strikers that we have in the building and no more until at least January. Yeah,
that was a strange one when I saw that. And, you've heard different things saying about how we turned Davis down, and then it was paperwork got stuck. There was a lot of hype around him when he went to Chelsea. He's not really fulfilled any potential, picked up some injuries, missed an absolute sitter. To be honest, I'm a big Kanu fan. I'd have kept him. If you thought you were going to be short of strikers, I'd have kept Kanu. But I understand they want to get him firing and getting scoring, which he did. So that was a bit of a strange one. The rest of the squad, it's pretty much the only thing I queried was like having 3 senior goalkeepers with that. And I didn't feel, because now we're not going to have the EFL Cup, there's not another really opportunity to rotate goalkeepers in. And having 3 seniors, I wouldn't have thought would have been that happy for them, because I think it's going to be Kaminsky with Mannion on a bench. Ashley, I don't know if Australia were qualified for the World Cup. He might be thinking, well, I need to be playing if I want to get in that squad. It's a difficult one. I mean, most teams have 2 seniors and 1 sort of like junior kid. If he goes out on loan, just put it into a release clause that he can come back in an emergency, so we're not stuck like we were. But I'm happy with the depth of a squad. It's just how the players who pop in for the odd game can actually fit in. And like you, I'm crying out for Godden to be there. I think he'd have been the difference in the Bristol game. He'd have probably been the difference in the Leicester game. So we could be quite easily sitting with another 6 points on top, down to 1 player. And it might put a little pressure on him, but it's that player we need.
I guess with the keepers, it only takes 1 injury, and then you've got Tommy Reid on the bench in the Championship, which, he's very young and he hasn't played a first team game competitively off the top of my head. I can't remember if he's played in the JPT games, but there'll be a lot of pressure on him. So I'm not against having 3 goalkeepers at all. So we've got the 3 keepers. I'm looking at the sort of centre back. So I actually did make this a couple of weeks ago, obviously right at the end of the transfer window. So Zach Mitchell's still in there because he ended up moving to Hibs on loan a few days after. So I put him in italic. But in centre backs then, so I've got Ramsey and Zach. So just Ramsey really as the right-sided one. Got Lloyd and Reese as the centre one, Amari Bell and Macaulay Gillespie as the left one. Is there enough there, I guess, is the question. I think Bree can probably go back into this role, into the right centre-back as well. Josh Edwards could, I think, if he had to, play left centre-back on the back 3, Tom. But you're looking at that part of the pitch, are you feeling that there's enough there? Are you feeling happy with that squad depth?
I am. Yeah, I think the left wing back potentially is the only risk, although when we have seen Fuller, he's impressed. It's just whether you want to have to chuck him in. If Edwards gets a long-term injury, you're suddenly doing that thing we've spoken about a lot, which is playing a youngster a lot. Centre-backs, I think, are okay. Rankin Costello can drop back there as well. I'm sure Burke could cover Ramsey. And I mean, if you get if you get big injuries to Ramsey, Jones and Amari Bell, for example, that's just bad luck. Like, you can't cater for all of that in a squad because you'd have to have 3 or 4 players for every position. So the left wing back is the one that stands out to me. You don't want to put a Tyrese all the way back there. I don't know if Apter or Bree could move over to that side, but as I say, Fuller can do it. But it's just that would be the only slot really that worries me. And I think in terms of the quality across that defence, and I think I said it before, a lot of them you could probably swap in and out and not lose too much, whereas last year it didn't really feel like that. And you can maybe get away with that in League One, but you can't really now. So, I'm largely happy with it, but I think that left wing back potentially is still an issue. It's whether, and I've actually just seen that from Murray there, it's whether, and I saw a few people talking about the Nathan Jones 11 a bit earlier, it's whether this 5-3-2, 3-5-2 is what he's going to stick with. He seems to be, this is the way he wants to play, and the players he's brought in seem to be that. But that does force Tyrese to play this sort of little hybrid role. It does mean in some games we can get overrun in midfield. I don't know whether we've got the players now to start to transition that, and whether Nathan Jones is going to. As I say, I saw people debating he doesn't know his first 11. I think he knows the first 11 he wants to play based on the players he's got. It's whether that is the right one or not. But I think it's just too early in the season to really tell that so far.
I feel like I'm an outlier in football fans. I love 3-5-2. It's my favourite formation. I used to love it when we played it under Bo a fair bit in the Championship, and we had some of our best games in that formation, like away at Fulham, away at West Brom. Like, I think I've got nothing against the formation at all personally, but I'm sure, like I say, there's always different opinions on different things, and outside of people who work in the game, none of us are tacticians really. We all have our opinions, but we're always sort of grasping at thin air, trying to really understand it, unless you work full on in football, I think, to talk about tactics. But we're football fans, we're going to talk about stuff we don't know all the time. That's our prerogative. The midfield, I've put Joe Rankin Costello in the CDM underneath Doherty. Mark, obviously he can play sort of right-sided as well. He could go anywhere. We've got Connor and Karoy I've put deep, although he can play in the 10, but we're quite well stocked in the 10 there with Carey, Berry and Nibs. So when you're looking at that midfield, Mark, I mean, numbers-wise, there's 2 people for every position pretty much. But, quality, what are you feeling about the midfield there?
I'm quite happy with that quality, to be quite honest. I mean, we did talk last season about if people like Karoy can step up. And it's going to be a learning season for him, learn not to put your foot in someone's head, possibly. But it's just one of those ones you've got options. And like I say, Rankin Costello is very experienced. Luke Berry, I don't think we're going to see as much of this season because I think that Carey's going to have it, and then Nibs is going to sort of like be replacing him. I know he scored in the cup game, but with Luke Berry last season, and he scored some amazing sort of like goals and turned up in places, but I didn't think he was ever going to be that one player who was going to be that match starter for us. So possibly he'll be just on the bench. So midfield, I'm okay with that because I think Connor drops quite deep, almost closer into the back 3, as it were, sometimes, and receives the ball. And he's looking up and looking for space. And when he's getting that space, it's lovely. And he'll put a tackle in defensively as well. A lot of talk's been about Doc. Can he get back to his second half of the season? And that's the thing with that. It's driving the team on. Carey, I like his speed, like his size, and like the fact that he's not afraid to have a crack from outside the area. So, no, midfield, I'm pretty happy with. I don't think I would change any of that.
Yeah, and we touched upon the strikers already there, obviously with Fofana not making it. So Leeburn, Campbell, Kelman, Alafe and God, and Dan's obviously gone out on loan to Walsall, got his first goal the other day, which was a lovely little finish as well. But yeah, there's options up there. We'll see as the season progresses how that works out for us. It was a good point by Paul. It's not, we've said this many times, but we call it 3-5-2. But I mean, TC can drop back a little bit, and Rob Apter, or used to be Thierry Small, could come up, and all of a sudden it becomes a 4-2-3-1 because Josh Edwards was back dropping to left back. Like, it is fluid, it's hybrid. So yeah, it's not one single formation. It sort of changes around a bit, but that's effectively what we put ourselves into. Right, shout out from Norman as well for his mate Dave Mahoney. He said he's hoping we can get a result for him He's going to be missing the game. He's got a heart problem. He's going to have a pacemaker put in. But all the best to Dave. So hopefully you'll be able to watch it on TV at least and enjoy the game on Saturday. Hopefully we'll all be able to enjoy the game against Millwall for a nice change. Massive South East London derby at the Valley. 12:30 kickoff again. Don't forget that. Going to have to remind everyone because you don't want to be missing this one. Should be I was going to say it should be a good day. Should be an interesting day at the Valley, as they often are against Millwall. Right, thanks for everyone who's joined us on the show tonight. We have run out of time though, so thanks for everyone who joined us in the chat. Don't forget, check out our merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel wherever you see us on the podcast apps as well. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another show. Tom and Mark, thanks for your time this evening.
Cheers, lads.
You're welcome, sir.
Lovely stuff. I'm Louis Mendes, and this has been Charlton Live, the big match preview sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Let's hope that the Addicts can put on a show for us this Saturday against Millwall. Can we finally end this 29-year run where we haven't beaten them? Surely it's got to happen at some point. Maybe this Saturday. We'll see you later.